Hi everyone, it's James here from Pro Tools Expert. A little backstory first. First, there was Edward Elgar, Sir Edward Elgar, if you will. Then the Beatles, then Pink Floyd, and now Pro Tools Expert comes to genuinely hallowed turf. You join me today at Abbey Road. I'm joining John Barrett, who is a senior recordist here at the legendary studios. Would you agree, probably the world's most famous recording studio?
Yeah, I'd assume so. I mean, it's the first purpose-built recording space in the world, so...
It's pretty much up there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we've not gone to Studio 1 and 2 and 3 because, well, you've seen those pictures. We've all seen big orchestral sessions in Studio 1. We've all seen the photos of the Beatles and Pink Floyd in Studio 2. What we've done is come to the newest facility, or certainly one of the new facilities here at Abbey Road, and this is the Gatehouse.
It is indeed, yes.
It's a beautiful space. Actually, it's the sort of space where us mere mortals can afford to record. So what was the kind of the theories and the ethos behind this place?
Well, I think the thing was that we wanted to have a space that was accessible and not intimidating to artists. Something that, you know, you could afford to come in and you could experiment, you could come in and write some stuff. That, you know, you're not clock watching. There's less pressure to get things done in a certain time frame. So it's a really great space for that.
But presumably this building's been here a while. What did it used to be before this amazing now? We'll get onto the console in a minute, but before this amazing space.
So, I mean, this for years was an editing block, but I think before that it was called the experimental room, and they used to try out doing weird mixes in here. But yeah, it was a classical editing space that you had two editors working away, but then they decided they were going to build a recording space, and we built up and back, and yeah, here we are.
It's stunning, and obviously the centerpiece is very much this beautiful BCM 10, 16-channel BCM 10.
It looks good, doesn't it?
It's very pretty, isn't it? I was very lucky a little while ago to go up and see the guys at Neve and have, well, its creator and designer Robin Porter have a chat about said device. How does it fit into a kind of? Because it's very much more. Should we call it an old school workflow?
Yeah. Well, it's really nice that we can sort of hybridize. So,
I like that word.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
Well, the interesting thing is, it sort of reminds me of when I was at university, sort of learning on a desk like this. But the interesting thing is, you kind of change the way you work. So we're obviously doing loads and loads of bussing in Pro Tools, but to just have the front end, all the mic pre's and the fantastic 1073s and the 1084s. They just sound incredible, and no matter what you do, they just sound good. Yeah, and it's like the more you give, the better it sounds. It's it's almost a cheat. It's like,
and the
it's
more
ridiculous.
you drive them, sometimes the more you get back.
Yeah,
you drive them to a point where you probably shouldn't drive them anymore, and they still keep giving, and it still just gets better and better.
But the great thing is, so you've got the amazing front end like that, and then you've got the flexibility of doing headphone cues, which you never could do easily on the previous, the originals.
Yeah, we should say this is a BCM 10 Mark II.
Mark II.
Rather than the original ones. This is kind of I think Robin refers to it as a semi-inline console.
Well, I think that's the thing is typical Neve these days, you've got all these sort of extra features that you can use, but you can still use it in a really simple, straightforward way. So typically, I mean, the way that I would do it is just using these as mic pre's and then bring things back on pairs like you would, because that's just the most flexible way of working for pop recordings.
Yeah. I mean, likewise, my desk is somewhat different, but my theories are the same. I send directly from my mic pre's straight into Pro Tools and bring everything back up onto my main faders.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed you've got a Pro Tools system tucked away over there.
We do indeed,
it's sitting on the new Apogee Symphony IOs.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yes.
How are you finding those?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Sound great, and you've got a whole host of other outboard goodies in here that I just keep looking at.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have a few choice pieces of gear.
Well, you've got, I think, possibly only to Blackbird in Nashville, you've got probably the best mic locker in the world.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky, and having a full-time guy that looks after them always helps.
And Leicester's been here as long as the studio has. So.
Yeah, you're talking from the 70s onwards. So,
what a piece of any gear that he doesn't know
isn't worth knowing.
No, exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I mean, you've already stocked it with some really nice pieces. I can see a 33609, which is my favourite compressor.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Okay.
It just seems to do what I want it to do.
Well, the great thing is as you said, it's all really just flexible. I mean, it's kind of, you've got everything you need in one space, and it's just really easily accessible. You know, oh, we've got a couple of 1176s, great. Oh, we got an SSL, you know, bus compressor effectively, and you know the Neves and TG's distressors, LA2A. It's all there. It's ready to go. It's just really, really functional. That's the thing that's great, is you just get going.
So did you find that this place was being booked from day one because someone thought, oh, I can go to Abbey Road and now I can afford it?
I think it's been a bit of a slow burner because people didn't really know about it. And the other thing is it's one of those things you kind of got to learn the space as well. So we were trying to figure out, what's really interesting is in the history of Abbey Road, obviously this is the biggest sort of new build that's happened in, you know, the best part of 40, 50 years, I think.
But you've got two other kind of big developments, haven't you?
Yes.
I'm going to call it the penthouse?
No,
the front room.
The front room.
Front room.
Which is, again, a sort of small space like this, but it's got the SSL duality in it. Mm-hmm. But it's got a great little vocal overdub booth, and you can record piano, like keyboards and stuff in there, and do some production stuff, and mixing in there is quite good. And then, obviously, you've got the Dolby Atmos Theatre, which is kind of a separate entity.
Yeah. Let's not go there because object-orientated audio still scares me. If I'm totally honest.
I think it scares most people.
I hit things for a living, so that side of things, that's for you, for the post guys out there. But it's the biggest studio renovation that this place has ever seen, isn't it? It's now just coming to fruition, and everything's now kind of...
So, I mean, I think that's what's interesting for us as engineers is that for once we get a new space that we don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, the great thing about Studio 1, Studio 2 and Studio 3 is that, you know, a lot of that's already been discovered. You know, oh, you put drums in that corner, that's where Ringo was, that, you know. Yeah. Whereas this is a brand new blank canvas.
And also, breaking those rules, you can be looked at, like, seriously frowned upon, can't you?
Yeah, well,
Ringo put his drum kit there. Well, I want to put it there.
I mean, the more experienced you get in studios, you realise that people have done things in a particular way for a reason. There's no point reinventing the wheel. If the drums sound good there, yeah, they might sound good there, but they sound really good there. Yeah. And there's a reason why everyone puts them there. So you put them there.
Yeah.
You know, whereas in here, no one really knows yet. It's still a blank canvas, so you can experiment. You know, let's put a mic down there and see how the drums sound over there, or you know.
And I suspect I'm jumping to conclusions, but being on the younger end of some of the staff that have obviously been through this building, you have coming in here, you haven't got the history, you haven't got the kind of hang-ups of the old school back when the engineers wore white coats or brown coats.
Yeah,
you haven't got. I mean, that's a long time ago now, but we still see those photographs and the
balance engineers with suits on. Yeah.
Yes, balance engineers. Again, what a great term. Yeah. Actually, I don't think we're far from that now, to be totally honest. Because I quite like, I've really gone back to that kind of old school workflow of getting it right on the way in.
Yeah.
And actually the mix is just a case of put the faders up.
Well, because you're having to sort of mix it as you go, even if you record things separately, you're balancing it because it's coming out of a pair of outputs. So it's kind of pre-mixed. You've got the flexibility, but you don't have the time to go back to it. And more to the point, if it sounds right, it is right. So why would you bother? You know, you're building a mix as you go.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Hopefully at the end, you kind of just do a few tweaks and you go, that's it.
There you go. Ta-da.
And no one's, you know, there are no surprises. Everyone's happy with how it's all progressing.
So with a space like this, and I say the live space you've got here it's sizable. You know, it's not pretend it's Studio 1 or 2. No. You're not going to fit the LSO or XYZ film scoring orchestra in there, but it's certainly a usable band space.
It's a very flexible space. Yeah.
I love the fact you've got the little kind of dead end almost, and
the little alcove.
Yeah, I really like that. I thought drums in there are going to sound great, really dry,
but loads of low end in that corner as well. It's kind of like, it feels a bit sort of disorientating at first, but it sounds great. Like doing vocals over there sounds great as well.
Awesome. What was the main reason about picking the BCAM 10 Mark II over, should we say, obviously it's a new design. It's a new rethink on an old design.
I think there was just something that's kind of really comforting and creative about having something that's straightforward and a bit funky and retro. I mean, the fact that it's a brand new sort of design of something old means it's going to be reliable. But it's kind of, I think a room like this just needs to be, you kind of just want to be able to get on with it straight away and it not be complicated. You don't want to be looking at menus. You don't want to be configuring things. I'm not saying you would necessarily have to do that with the desk you mentioned. But having said that, just just being able to get on with it and just, as we were saying earlier, the fact that with these mic pre's, they just keep on giving. No matter what you do, it just sounds good.
You've got to really try hard to sound bad in a good room.
I mean, it makes us look really good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like having something like this as your front end is just, I mean, not only does it look really good, it sounds great.
So you've configured it, was it 8 1073s and 8 1084s?
1084s, yeah.
Which I'm guessing is probably a pretty standard configuration because...
I guess so. I mean... I don't know any different.
No, of course not. No. But I mean, there is a certain flavour difference between the two mic pre's. I don't think there's a great deal, and James from Neve is sat over there somewhere, and he'll probably be screaming at me saying, "There's loads of difference. It's completely different sounding." Is he?
For my money, I'd say I prefer the 1084s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have that much experience with 1084s, if I'm totally honest. 1073s are where my experience sits. For drums, they sound...
Well, that was the weird thing is I'd never used the 1084s before, and then now I just sort of go. There's just a few things on the EQs that I just find a little bit more flexible. Having some extra bands and extra flexibility. I just like it.
The thing I really like about this particular board, though, is it then drives out into the amazing 1272 line amps, and they do something magical. I don't know what or how. There are plenty of electronics wizards out there who probably can tell me, oh, yes, it's to do with the yada, yada, yada. But they do sound magical. I was with a guy who's got a pair of those as mic pre's. And I think he was using it for overheads. I just went, yeah, that sounds really, really good. So it's basically to sum that lot through.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah. Very, very, very attractive centerpiece of the console, and it does feel like you're driving a proper board, doesn't it?
Oh,
I mean, it is a proper board, but it really does feel like you're in the hub of a studio.
Yeah. No, I mean it just looks like a real desk as well. It looks timeless. So,
tell us a little bit more about John, about yourself. How did you come to be recordist?
Recordist. Okay. Well, I've been here. Actually, I'm coming up to my 10-year anniversary this month. In September. So in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be 10 years. But I actually started 12 years ago.
Right.
And I came here as part of a placement scheme from my university degree.
Where did you study?
So I was at University of Surrey.
So you did the Tonmeister then?
I did, for my sins, do the Tonmeister.
Which is probably up there as one of the most prestigious audio degrees, certainly in the country, if not the known world.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really great place to kind of get to grips with the technology side of things. And weirdly enough, I don't think that I got particularly practical experience from that degree. Obviously, you come here...
It's quite theoretical, isn't it? It's quite a lot of...
I mean, the studio spaces are fantastic, but you kind of have to learn on the job. It was weird because, coming here on my placement year, you suddenly go, oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah, that's what a compressor really sounds like.
Yeah. Well, you suddenly turn up and you think you know what you're doing, and then you sit at the back of the room and go, I'll just watch and learn.
I think that's I think that's what actually happens with everyone who goes through an audio, be it an audio school, be it technical, be it hands-on, be it any of the ones you could mention. I think if you leave one of those those establishments thinking the world now as you are living, you are in some serious bother. You then find out how it's really done, as you say. You sit at the back of the room and you watch, and you become a human sponge.
It's amazing how much you learn very, very quickly. And then the thing is, I think you never stop learning. There's always something you can find, which is really, it's really interesting. Even after 10 years of being in a studio, it's great to be assisting other engineers and go, that's how you do it. Well, that's another take on that. So
do you actually find you're asking questions, even now, actually asking questions, or just kind of casually observing is probably the wrong word, but kind of going, picking up tidbits and things like that? Or will you actually say to Simon Rhodes, for example, would you say, Simon, could you run me by while you're doing it that way, rather than...
Yeah, well, I would actually, yeah, and it's quite nice because there's a great, because obviously we've got staff engineers here, which is kind of unique. There is a sense of kind of, if you're doing, because quite often you'll end up doing something that's technically a bit strange, or it's like, weird ensemble. You go, how would I do that? What would be the? And you'll ask, what would you do if you're doing that? And you get 3 or 4 different people's take on what they would do.
Yep.
And then you sort of hybridize that. Again, used to hybridized. So you'll take that and then kind of come up with your own way of doing it, which is a mix of that person, and that person.
Because that's the one thing that we say on Pro Tools Expert is that in the handful of facilities there are left where you do have multiple rooms, multiple studios, house engineers, people coming in and out, the water cooler moment is genuinely around the water cooler or in the coffee shop or the bar or whatever.
Staring at the screen as well whilst there's an error message that no one knows.
Yeah.
Never seen that
doesn't do error messages.
Never seen that before.
The internal wiki goes, what does an error so-and-so mean? But the thing with Pro Tools Expert is, say, we look at it that the community is our water cooler.
Yeah.
Because, we don't get that. You get the whole, we have a team Facebook page where we'll put, I'm recording a so-and-so. How on earth do you do that? But if you haven't got a team of people around you, you do need that kind of online community almost, which is obviously what we're trying to be.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear that, say that you guys, even now, the guys who are quote unquote in the dream gig, are still going, right, well, we need to learn how to do that. I mean, my favourite trick is always to ask the musician.
Yeah.
So last time you were here, where did they stick the mics on this harp or whatever? I think I've recorded a harp twice ever.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Did it different both times. But hey.
Well, it probably sounded like a harp both times, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it ended up sounding like an accordion, which is always a bonus.
Thank God.
No comment.
As long as it doesn't sound like bagpipes, you're all right, yeah?
So let's get back to, quite frankly, my favourite subject about this place, gear. I am a gear monkey. Hands up. I suffer with gas. And for those of you out there who don't know, it's gear acquisition syndrome. This mic collection is pretty something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got more Neumanns than Neumann, which is ridiculous. No, it's true. I mean, we're also really lucky that because we were part of EMI, internationally, all the EMI studios, as they started closing down, sadly, because obviously we all know that studios are closing down around the world, we'd acquire all of their equipment. So we got all these microphones from all these places around the world. So some of our best 67s and 47s actually came from Pathé Marconi in France. But they're fantastic pieces and they're in great condition. And because of Leicester, it's all perfectly maintained. So we've got, I think we got 14 U47 48s, all in perfect working order, and they're all like different serial numbers, so they're all like different characters.
Yeah.
There's one that we affectionately known as Old Wormy because of the dodgy old cable that comes with it, but it's fuzzy and it sounds great on vocals, and then you've got a really clean sort of pop vocal 920, which is, a Pathé Marconi one.
But I mean, it's not just microphones, it's outboard gear, it's everything from let's face it, the dawn of modern recording.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We got Fairchilds just sort of like knocking around in the corridors, and
holding doors open.
Well, they used to. I mean, I heard the stories of like in the sort of late 70s that they were just being sort of left lying around because people didn't use them anymore. But they've obviously been reconditioned and brought back into the become fashionable again.
That stuff is to die for, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's like it's funny actually that I think the last old thing to become fashionable again is drum sounds. Yeah. Everyone's going back to the kind of 60s Ludwig and Gretsch drum sounds. We've already sort of talked about the Neve. It's a new take on an old style, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So vintage mics have been the icon of studios forever, it feels like. And yet back in the 60s, they were 300 quid a pop, and you bought a load of them because that's what you needed. Yeah. And now if you can get them for some of those mics 10, 15, 20,000 quid.
Yeah, and then say that John Lennon sang into it, and then it's going to be
many more zeros.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it true, the story about the scratch marks, so they knew which one they were always singing into?
Don't know about that one. Go on.
I've heard a myth on that one.
Oh, right.
I'd heard that one of them had some scratch marks in it, so they always knew they were singing as the same one.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Maybe want to check with Lester.
I'll investigate. Yeah.
So we've already sort of alluded to the fact that it's a smaller space. Smaller equals tighter sound, often much less of that kind of what we refer to as the big room sound. But that hasn't brought the calibre of artists down, of people who've come in here, has it? You've had some pretty big names working in here.
I mean, the great thing is it's a really flexible, small, creative space, so people can sort of come in last minute and sort of do things, whatever they fancy, write some songs or rehearse some stuff up. So we've had some pretty interesting people coming in. You know, we've had James Bay came in, we've had Nile Rodgers, JP Cooper came in.
Have all sold a few records.
Yeah,
one or two.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird array of people. Well, I don't want to say weird because that sounds derogatory, but
broad.
Yeah, eclectic.
Yeah,
that's
I like that
for.
one.
Yeah,
I like eclectic. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And are they using? Are they actually getting in and really digging in with the gear, or are they bringing in a laptop and plugging it into channels 1 and 2 and going? It becomes should we call it an R&B mixer?
Well, I think to be honest, you've got both. A combination of the two, because to say that someone isn't going to come in and just put up 2 faders on there from their laptop would be a lie, because that's we all know that that's the workflow. But then having said that, having this here gives you the flexibility to do whatever you need. So it might end up that you start recording through this, going straight into that, and then end up on the laptop, or it might be we'll just quickly do some stuff on the laptop, and it's the flexibility of being able to do both approaches, which is great.
And I think as well, the amazing thing is, and I say I've used this analogy for years, that because Pro Tools is the standard, you could start pre-production or songwriting or prep down here, and then take that same file into Studio One to record your orchestral overdubs and then bring it back down here to mix it, and it's all the same. I mean, we kind of take that for granted, but you start moving between DAWs and finding out how painful it is to do that sort of stuff.
I'll just consolidate everything from bar 1.
Or session start. And the number of people who don't do that and ask you to, why isn't it lining up with the click track? It's just
why are they all different lengths?
Yes. We shouldn't be teaching you any new stuff here, folks, but trust me, it happens. When someone says send me the session consolidated, they do mean from session start, not from where you think the start of the session is. Am I right?
Well, I'd go 2 bars in is always a good place to be, because then everything lines up and you've got your count in, so it's all good.
Yeah, either or works, but random length.
As long as it's consistent, that's the key. Random
length audio files helps nobody. You're hearing it from someone who gets a load of this sort of stuff, and from someone who presumably has to deal with it. John, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat. Thank you so much for taking time out of your what I imagine is an incredibly hectic, varied day.
Yeah.
To show us around the new facility, the Gatehouse, here at, quite frankly, the legend that is Abbey Road. If you've got any questions for John or myself, please do put them down in the comments below. We will make sure that they get to him or me or answered or anything like that. But for now, my name's James Ivey, and you've been with us here at the amazing Gatehouse at Abbey Road Studios. But for now, see you again soon for some more Gear Talk.